Welcome back into the Dead Arm Sports Podcast, coming at you live on a Thursday. It is
LIVE live.
day one of the NFL season. We have officially made it. It is the start of fantasy football. Your team's hopefully making a nice playoff run, and we're here to have you covered throughout the football season.
You had me lost. You had me lost for a second. Had me lost for a second. I ain't gonna lie.
I got a fantasy football question of the day for you, Gel. I want to know, in all of your leagues, is there a player that you have on all of your teams, or at least most of them, and who is that player and why?
I've been able to snag Travis Etienne. I'm just a huge Travis Etienne fan this year. He just went through obviously just rehab last year, so no on-field wear and tear. But you're able to get Travis Etienne pretty late in your drafts. And at this point, he's being drafted, I mean, into the RB 12-ish range, even later, maybe, Josh?
Yeah, probably like mid to late teens, I bet.
I was going to say mid-teen, like 12-ish would be probably a stretch, probably mid-teens. And I just see a massive role for Etienne this upcoming year. I've been able to get pretty lucky and grabbing him accordingly. I just really see him taking on a very massive role in that Jacksonville offense. Doug Peterson's going to bring a different dynamic to that Jacksonville offense that was completely missing with Urban Meyer there. Urban Meyer, train wreck, bringing Doug Peterson, Super Bowl winning coach, turn Nick Foles into a 500-plus yard throwing quarterback in the Super Bowl against Bill Belichick, by the way. So he knows offense. I think that spells that means all good things for Travis Etienne. And I've been able to snag him in pretty much all my drafts, and I'm very, very happy about every single time that I have been able to.
Person that I have on just about all of my teams, I believe I've got him on all of my teams, maybe outside of one, is somebody that shares my first name and my initials, and that is Joshua Palmer of the Los Angeles Chargers, formerly of San Diego. But
related to Mike?
Maybe.
we'll dedicated listener shout out.
Yes. But Chargers offense is going to be one of the top offenses in the league this year. You've got Mike Williams and Keenan Allen there, who have been injury prone throughout their careers. And if one of them goes down, Joshua Palmer is going to step into that wide receiver 2 role. And he's had a great training camp so far. It came on a little bit last year. He's going to be in that wide receiver 3 role. And I think he's going to be on the field quite a bit. Somebody you can get later in your drafts, take a shot on. And I think he's going to end up paying off at one point or another this season. So I'm pretty excited to have him as a late sleeper option in a lot of my leagues.
Yeah, well, Farmer Ellis had Mr. Josh Palmer as his horse last, or maybe he was a unicorn.
I believe a unicorn
in the coming into the 2021 season. And he did not perform. So at this point, for me with Josh Palmer, it's a wait and see. I love everything that you said, but I also thought the same thing last year. So that's the only reason with me, Josh Palmer. I've got hesitation, but I mean, at the same time, he could also just blow up and I could be looking like an asshole now saying I've got doubts. So I think Josh Palmer could be legit. I just have personal reservations based on me having high expectations last year and him not coming through at all.
You were just a little premature, Joe.
I'm used to that.
We can be found.
Don't ask my exes about that, please. Please.
It can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. On YouTube, make sure you
That was funny.
subscribe, click the bell, and you'll know when our
Ding.
episodes drop live. Usually rolling those out 1 to 2 times a week, depending on our NBA podcast as well. But again, you subscribe there, you'll know when we go live, so that way you can ask us questions in the chat. You can
We
also
do it
ask us
live.
questions at Dead Arm Sports on any of our socials. If you want someone's individual take, you can find Gel at DasJel. That's at DASJEL. I'm at DasJPEC. That's at DASJPEC. You can also find us on the old TikTok machine as well at Dead Arm Sports. Bear with us as we get more content out there for you. Just posted that and
Work
got
in
that up and
process.
running
Little
this
whip
last
action.
Labor Day weekend. All right, Gel. It is our NCAA Week 2 preview. Week 1 in the books. Hopefully, if you're listening, your team was victorious and rolling with an undefeated record right
Victorious.
now. Got a few decent games on the slate. I'll let you start this one, Gel, so I don't steal one of yours. I believe I stole one of your games last week, so I'll let you go first. Make sure you're covered. What's your top game you're looking forward to this weekend?
I mean, okay, game that I'm looking forward to, if we're going to go that route, it's got to be Washington at the Badgers at Camp Randall.
Washington State.
Or sorry, yeah,
Yep.
that's what I meant. Washington State at Camp
Cougs.
Randall. The Cougs. Hey, Cougars, you know where to hit me up. But but no, I really, I can't, as a Badger fan, I should say I should temper this next statement that I can't wait to see what Cameron Ward is going to do, because I'm scared about what he's going to do as a Badger fan, but I'm very excited to see Cam Ward coming over, from his intergalactic bird state or whatever it was.
Incarnate Word out of Houston, Texas.
Same thing. So him coming over looks extremely dynamic. Him coming over to Washington State. I'm excited. I'm extremely excited to see what he can do against this Badger defense. Badger defense, obviously, it's that front seven that's always often, always, always awesome. Really, just tons of, generally get a ton of guys drafted from first, second, third, fourth round from that Badger defense. And I'm waiting here to see, can Cam Ward kind of, given his athleticism as a quarterback, can he kind of stick his key into that lock, turn it, and break through that defense? Now we'll see how that works out, but I'm scared as a Badger fan, because a lot of times that Badger defense can be a little bit iffy against dual threat quarterbacks, but I'm also excited at the same time to see what Cameron Ward has to show within that Washington State offense, and just for him to show off his incredible athletic ability. So I've got it's kind of a dual side. I guess every sword is two-sided. So that cliche kind of sucks, but it's kind of a two-sided sword for me as far as what I'm looking forward to. And but I'm looking forward to both Cameron Ward and seeing how that Badger defense can try to contain him.
Yeah, no, it should be a good game. Washington State, a little bit of a slow start against Idaho last week, but ended up coming away with a victory. I believe Ward ended up with 3 touchdowns in that one. So should be interesting. Like you said, Badgers have struggled in the past historically with dual threat quarterbacks. We'll see if they can contain him, keep him in the pocket, make him beat him with the arm, and look to see what that Badger offense. They were solid against Illinois State last week. We'll see what Graham Mertz and Braylon Allen and company can get going with Bobby Ingram's offense and go from there with it. So it should be
Did you see any
good one.
Did you see anything different with Bobby Ingram as the new offensive play caller? Anything that you maybe saw that was encouraging out of him versus what we'd seen in years past from that Badger offense?
Not as much as far as like the play calling was, but it just seemed like Graham Mertz, for whatever reason, was so much more comfortable back in the pocket. So I don't know if that's him understanding the playbook more, if Bobby Ingram's calling plays that maybe Graham Mertz is very good at running and excels at, but it did look like he had a little bit more of a pep in his step, and it was a little bit of a slow start for the Badger offense. It took that 100-yard interception return really to get the team kind of going, and then from there the offense kind of stepped it up. But the first drive, I was like, "Oh no, what do we got going
It
on
was a
here?" But
rough start, honestly.
yeah. One of the games I'm looking forward to, obviously being a Badger fan, that's number one on my priority for this weekend. But I want to see Kentucky at Florida. I want to see
Yeah.
how real Florida actually is. We talked great depth last episode about Anthony Richardson, and I want to see if Florida's for real. Kentucky's coming in. The Will Levis obviously is hyped up. Kentucky, I don't think they're that great of a team. They're ranked, but this will be a first true test again, another test, I should say, for Florida, just coming off of Utah, the number 7 team in the country coming in. But I'm excited. This is a big rivalry game, Kentucky and Florida. So this should be a fun one down in the swamp, and just want to see how real Florida is. I mean, you get 2 wins off of ranked teams back to back to start off the season. That's going to jumpstart them and maybe get them in contention for that Georgia game. Ultimately, I think Georgia is going to win that division. But again, we'll see where Florida is looking like they're headed, at least for this season, and with this Kentucky matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much nailed it on the head. Florida, Kentucky, those are the two potential SEC East contenders, really, against Georgia. Florida jumped up to number 12 in those AP rankings from being unranked going into their game against the Utah Utes. They jumped up to number 12 for very good reason. Anthony Richardson, as we discussed on a previous episode, incredibly dynamic. And I just think we're in for a treat with this, especially offensively, given that right now we could be looking at 2 extremely high NFL picks with Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. Will Levis, no slouch on his own. I mean, I know they may have struggled a little bit last week against Miami of Ohio, at least to start out, but he still threw for 300 yards. So Levis is still putting up those numbers, the numbers that he's expected to put up. We're talking about Will Levis as a potential top 10 pick, given this quarterback class. And so it's just, I'm definitely absolutely looking forward to that Florida Kentucky game. As really, I don't really give a shit about their defenses. I'm 100% bought in on both team and their offense, their quarterbacks, and seeing what they can do and seeing how truly dynamic both guys are in Richardson and in Levis. So that's definitely one of the games that I'm going to have my eyes glued on. I guess one of the other ones for sure I'm going to have my eyes on, at least early on.
I know where you're going. Is this the site of a college game day this week, Joe?
Alabama, Texas. I don't really have that much to say other than Will Anderson is going to be lined up versus a freshman left tackle. Is there anything more that needs to be said? I mean, Texas, yeah, they look good in their opener, but let's be honest, they were 37.5-point favorites against UL Monroe. I'm an idiot, and I chose UL Monroe to upset them. But still, but my point is, you got a fresh, basically. I think Ewers is a freshman quarterback, right?
I think technically, I don't know if he actually redshirted last year, but I don't. Yeah,
it was a weird, NIL, COVID. Just blame it on him. Don't. Whatever. So let's call Ewers a freshman quarterback, and he's got a freshman left tackle going against the best defensive player in college football in Will Anderson. That's going to be an Alabama butt whooping. I'm gonna just come out and say 49-13 max. I don't think I'm going to go beyond 13 for Texas in this game. I think this is going to be an absolute ass whooping.
This is one of the games I had written down as well, just because it's going to tell us a lot about the Texas Longhorns. And a lot of their fans are pretty hyped up going into this season, as they should be. You've got Bijan Robinson, one of the Heisman favorites at the running back position. You had a fantastic freshman last year in Xavier Worthy, and obviously Quinn Ewers coming over from Ohio State. So Longhorns fans are fired up, and now you get the chance to face the number one team in the country and one of the favorites for the college football championship this year. And they will see where they stand with this one. Can they keep it close? Can they put points up on the board? When does it start becoming a blowout? I think ultimately, like you said, I think it's going to be Alabama running away with this one, but I'm curious to see what the halftime score looks like. Can Texas keep up with them for a half, and then Alabama's defense just wears them down? That offensive line gets worn down by that front four from Alabama. So I'm just is going to go a long way in telling us how back Texas actually is. I think.
I love that call. That you could probably tell a lot more about the Longhorns at halftime than you will by the end of the game, because I think any knowledgeable, non-biased college football fans know how this game is going to turn out. But if Texas can hang in there for the first half, that's at least steps in the right direction. And that's, if you're a Longhorns fan, that's what you need to see. So I totally agree with you there.
And that could give them a ton of momentum going into the rest of the season. If they can hang with Alabama for 2 quarters, maybe they're even within 2 scores at the start of the 4th quarter. I mean, that gives you a lot of motivation for the rest of the season, saying, hey, we hung with Alabama for 3 quarters, and we're not too far away from being a team that is in consideration for not only Big 12 championship, but maybe a playoff appearance as well down the road. So I think, again, like I said, this will go a long ways in telling us what we've got out of the Longhorns here.
Do you think that Ewers is going into this season or playing this season with a kind of in the back of his head thinking, there's another freaking Manning right behind me, and that's going to hurt his play? Or do you think that he's maybe going to rise above that? I guess like that's also something that definitely has to be considered in this quarterback room within Texas. Maybe not this year, but certainly, but even, I guess I should say, even this year, if you're Quinn Ewers, you know that there's pressure from all the boosters, all the now legal NIL companies. They're going to want Manning. They're going to want Arch Manning to be playing next year. If you're Quinn Ewers, you got to be feeling that pressure too.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's going to be a different pressure in the fact that he's one of the most highly touted prospects in a long time coming in. And I think just living up to that bill, he already started off and transferred out of one school back into Texas. And yeah, he's got probably Arch Manning in the back of his mind, but he knows if he puts up a good season this year, he's probably going to be the one that's leading the Longhorns next season. Maybe Arch comes in and does well and gives him a little bit of a quarterback battle. But you also have to remember too, that was Quinn Ewers' first ever really prolific playing time this last week. So he's still a young quarterback, has a ton to learn.
He is technically a redshirt freshman
because of, since he didn't. Yeah, because I think he only got in for like a series or 2 at Ohio State in one of the blowout games. So, yep.
Because now you can play in up to 4 games and still redshirt, which that feels kind of slimy, but I won't get into that.
No. My last game I'm looking forward to watching, this one, is moving up a little north of Oz. Nope. It is east of Austin, and that is at Texas A&M. Appalachian State's coming into town after their big close game against North Carolina this last week. That game was in the 60s, so I want to see if Appalachian State can put up some points on this Texas A&M defense. A&M one-handedly last week, 34-0. So I don't think this one's going to be close, but hey, Appalachian State has done it before and knocked off a top 10 team. So why not this week in Kyle Field at Texas A&M?
I absolutely 1,000% love this game. I think that this is one of the best bets on the board right now. Appalachian State plus 18. A&M beat Sam Houston State last week by 31. App State is a significantly better team than Sam Houston State, and they just hung with UNC until it came down to 2-point conversions. If they would have made one of those 2-point conversions, one of those 2-point conversions, or one of those two 2-point conversions, they could have won that game. Yeah. So I think that that may be the best bet on the board. I may be also, you're kind of pushing me towards our future segment here.
Do you have any other games you want to look forward to before you talk about the future segment there, Joe?
The last one that I want to talk about is Hawaii at Michigan. It's a 50-point spread. Why is Hawaii even playing away games? Like, wouldn't Jim Harbaugh and all those Wolverines, wouldn't they just rather go to Hawaii and play their game there rather than playing Hawaii and just ripping them to shreds at home? Like, it just feels like a pointless trip. Like, Hawaii they should get an NCAA like exemption to just play home games. I don't understand. Like, they're a shitty team.
Yeah, it's not like it's giving them an
excuse
advantage
to go to Hawaii. It's like the NFL Pro Bowl back in the day. It's just an excuse to go to Hawaii for all these players. They should get an exemption, play all 12, 13 games at home. This is pointless for them to come to Michigan.
Yes.
Michigan would love to go to Hawaii.
Quick shout out for two other games. You got the Battle of Iowa State at Iowa. It's always usually a pretty good game. And then two ranked teams, Baylor traveling to BYU. So it should be a tough road test for Baylor right off the bat. So that might be a good one to watch as well. Joe alluded to it, had a new segment we unveiled last week, our upset special or upsets of the week. Both off to a little bit of a cold start. I had West Virginia over Pitt, which would have ended up being pretty good if West Virginia's wide receiver could catch a ball instead of letting it deflect off of his hands for a late pick six. But I was hopeful for a while. West Virginia was hanging right there with Pitt. Not enough down the road there, but a little bit closer than your pick, Joe, of Texas going down to UL Monroe.
Yeah, I put a little bit of quiche on UL Monroe, at least covering the spread of 37.5. Did not cash on that, so ended up going 500 on the weekend, which AKA for you junior bettors or non-bettors, that means I lost this week. So yeah, 37.5 couldn't cover that and certainly did not cover my bet. So we are both 0-1, but yes, as I alluded to, we are moving into week 2 of the NCAA season of making our bets. And Josh, do you want to dive into this?
Yeah, absolutely. Just in case you're new to the show, first off, thank you for joining us. And with this segment, we're picking upsets of the week. You can't pick anyone that is below a 7-point underdog. So it's when you get points for how that is. So 7 to 14 point underdogs, you get a point. 14.5 to 21, you get 2 points. And then 21.5 and above is 3 points. So and it's got to be an outright win, not covering the spread. So we're going big. So far, both of us
Go
have
hard or
0.
go home, all the way back to your residence.
Yes. Jill, why don't you go ahead and kick yours off since we talked about this game briefly, I'm assuming, up above.
Oh, well, dang it. No, I want you to go first. I want you to go first because I'm still in between two of them. I mentioned App State A&M, but I'm still in between two of them. So I want you to take the lead here.
Sounds good. I am going to get some action and take this one to Fayetteville, Arkansas, where the South Carolina Gamecocks are coming into Fayetteville as 8.5-point underdogs. South Carolina, not a great start against Georgia State last week. Georgia State's not that bad of a team. Had a couple of scoop and scores from South Carolina last week with 2 touchdowns there. But Spencer Rattler was okay in his first start,
Hardly
but
know
I
her.
think I think he'll end up turning it around. Marshawn Lloyd had a pretty good game. Shaheem Bell was their leading rusher out of the backfield there. Again, Lloyd had 2 touchdowns, and South Carolina's defense was still pretty solid. Corners and safeties were playing phenomenal against Georgia State. So I like to see them give KJ Jefferson a little bit of trouble there and slow down that Arkansas offense and maybe pull off a road upset. Shane Beamer's club, not the best on the road last year, but I think this could be one that Arkansas might be looking ahead and not taking South Carolina as seriously, and South Carolina could pull off an upset special here.
If Arkansas doesn't take this game seriously, then they are being completely miscoached. And I think that they have a really legit coach. So I would be pretty shocked if they end up losing this game. But Spencer Rattler, like you mentioned, man, he was regarded as potentially the top quarterback in the country at the start of last season. So anything's possible. Anything's possible. That's a what is that? I'm on a
AG.
boat.
Oh.
Anything's possible. Never want to see you on a boat. It's a big blue watery road. Okay, so I think that the best bet on the week is Appalachian State plus 18 against A&M. Like I said, A&M only won by 31 against Sam Houston State. Appalachian State was a 2-point conversion from beating UNC, but that is not my upset pick of the week.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Arizona plus 10.5 over Mississippi State. Arizona took care of business 38-20 against San Diego State last week. There's been a ton of transfers that transferred into that Arizona program that have made an immediate difference. They went 1-10 last year. They already have 1 win this year. So they're already on a positive trajectory from last year. And I like that. I like that pick as, given that Arizona, they look pretty damn good. And San Diego San Diego State, they're not a slouch, some BS team out there. That's a legit football program. And they almost doubled them up in points, beating them 38-20. So I really like what I saw out of Arizona last year. And I think it's your boy, Will Rogers, your Heisman contender. Think he might be going down in week 2.
Yeah, we'll see. He had a nice opening week to start off the season and air raid offense by Mike Leach. So yeah, we'll see if Arizona can keep up with that or at least contain that offense. But that was one I was kind of eyeing up to, but ultimately decided to grab the Gamecocks on the road. All right, we are on to bigger, better things. Kids that are graduated from college,
kids are no longer kids; they are now pros.
Yes.
Hey, those kids can still make the big bucks now.
Yes. Moving into our NFL preview week 1. What are you looking forward to, Jill?
Okay, so I'm looking forward to literally every single game right now. There's one game that I'm not looking forward to. Bills Rams, potential Super Bowl matchup. Philly at Detroit. Are the Lions for real? Are the Eagles for real? San Fran at Chicago. Trey Lance versus Matt Eberflus's new defense. Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. Super Bowl hangover for Cincy. And when does Kenny Pickett come in? New England at Miami. What's going on with that McDaniels offense? What's going on with Bill Belichick's offense? Cleveland at Carolina. This is Baker's revenge game. He's already said he's out here to, he's said he's here to fuck them up. Earmuffs for the children. Little late on that one, I guess.
I was gonna say, I think you're supposed to say that before you use the potty mouth.
Indy at Houston. Ken Davis Mills, is he, him in year 2, is he taking a jump? New Orleans at Atlanta. Does Marcus Mariota get replaced at halftime by Desmond Ridder? Baltimore at the Jets. I already have money on Baltimore at minus 280, so they better effing win. Jacksonville at Washington. Trevor Lawrence year 2. Effectively Travis Etienne game 1. Green Bay at Minnesota. How legit is Kevin O'Connell? Is he weird like Brandon Staley was, or is he going to be dynamic like Sean McVay? Both Kevin O'Connell and Brandon Staley worked under Sean McVay. Vegas at Los Angeles Chargers. Week 18 rematch. McDaniels, Devontae Adams additions for the Raiders. Can they overcome Herbert taking another step and the additions that the Chargers have made? Kansas City at Arizona. Did Kyler's drama actually end up hurting Arizona? Cliff Kingsbury also is good to start seasons, but so is Andy Reid. Tampa at Dallas. Is Dallas actually worth a damn? And also, what the hell's going on with Tom Brady? Denver at Seattle. This is obviously Russell Wilson returning to Seattle. If you're taking notes here, there's one game that I did not mention for very obvious reasons, and that is Tennessee, or that is the Giants at Tennessee. I have zero interest in that game, but I am all in on those other 15 games for those reasons. Josh, why don't you get us kicked off in what you want to dive into?
No, I think that was a great preview, and pretty much whatever games I'm looking forward to, you touched on exactly why.
I touched on all of them, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying the ones that I wanted to watch, you nailed why I was looking forward to watching those games. And I think this week 1 is this season is one that there's a ton of storylines where we might not have had those in the past, at least kicking off the beginning of the season. A lot of question marks, a lot of teams out there we're not sure what to expect from. And I want to kick it off with the Thursday game, and that's Buffalo at this defending Super Bowl champion, the LA Rams. Buffalo is one of the Super Bowl favorites along with the Rams. This could be a potential Super Bowl preview, and it's my 2 Super Bowl picks from our last podcast. Go check that one out if you want to hear more about that. But I'm just looking forward to it. Got Josh Allen versus Matt Stafford. You got some fantastic, awesome wide receivers in this one. What's Buffalo's run game looking like? Is it the Devin Singletary show? Is James Cook going to eat into that? They didn't cut Zach Moss. What's his role going to be? I'm looking forward. Can Gabe Davis turn his phenomenal game against the Chiefs into more momentum going into this season? what's Allen Robinson looking like this year? There's a ton of question marks in this one that I want to know more answers to, especially when it comes to fantasy. These are two teams that you want to have a piece of their offense. They're great offenses to have, and I want to see what's cooking with both of these. And no better way to kick off the season than a matchup of two powerhouse teams.
One of the names that you did not mention there was Cam Akers. What are your thoughts on him, his role going forward? I know that McVay has said he, and again, this is what he's saying to the press. This is not what he's saying in house, but he's saying to the press he sees potentially a 50-50 split backfield between Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson. So what do you see between those two guys?
I'm actually kind of out on Cam Akers. That Achilles injury, I want to see somebody actually come back from that and have a lot of success. And where Cam Akers was going in fantasy drafts this year, I'd rather take a shot on Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson looked halfway
Wow.
decent last year, and I think I own more shares of Derrick Henry or Derrick, yeah, not
Oh,
Derrick Henry,
whoa.
Darrell
That would be,
Henderson.
yeah, of course you would.
Yeah. Darrell Henderson this year than I do Cam Akers because I don't know. I'm taking McVay from his word with that. Sony Michelle was in there a bit last year when Cam Akers was out along with Darrell Henderson. So Darrell Henderson's been fine. He's had injury concerns himself, but not as severe as that torn Achilles that Cam Akers had suffered. And I think I'd rather have Darrell Henderson go as opposed to Cam Akers. I'd rather take a shot on some of the other names that don't have as many question marks in the same round Cam Akers is going.
Yeah, I think I was extremely high on Cam Akers about a month ago. My expectations fantasy wise have trickled down a little bit. I based on everything that McVay has said, based on, he wasn't necessarily as explosive as I had maybe thought that he was when he came back in that Tampa game. He did put up some halfway decent production outside of those fumbles, but didn't necessarily look 100% right. So I guess it pains me to say it, but maybe I'm out on Cam Akers, at least at his current ADP. At this point, however, we're probably not really doing, most people at least at this point aren't doing fantasy drafts. So I guess I'd like to move off the fantasy draft piece and go just into Philly and versus the Lions. What do you see out of the Lions? What do you see out of Philly? I know we talked about Philly. We both agree that they're going to win the division, but do you see the Lions hanging in here? I mean, I'm a fan of now here of Dan Campbell. Do you see, I don't necessarily see any struggles here, but do you see the Lions being at least competitive here in week 1 against Philly at home?
Yeah, we're going to get our first look at what the Lions are going to be able to do against a potential playoff team. Like you said, both of us have Philly winning the division this year, and Lions get a tough home test right off of the bat. We'll get to see Jalen Hurts in the second year of his offense there, and could see Jared Goff and company in the second year under head coach Dan Campbell. Lions at times last year were competitive and took teams down to the wire. I mean, they barely lost to Baltimore last year after Justin Tucker kicked an NFL record field goal to win the game.
66 yards, was it, or
Yeah, I
something?
believe, yeah, something around that. But I think you'll see a better Lions team this year, and it wouldn't surprise me if they were to pull off an upset. But ultimately, I think Philly does come away with this victory. I think their offense is just going to be too much for Detroit's defense, and Detroit's offense isn't going to be able to keep up. But I think you'll see a little bit more from the Lions, and this will be a good start for them.
Okay, next game that I want to touch on, New England at Miami with you. This is we already pretty much know that they're like the stats are out there that Bill Belichick just destroys rookie quarterbacks and his previous coaches. Now that does not apply here, but it is still a rookie coach within his own division. What do you see here, New England at Miami? Do you think that, do you think New England's reports out of camp from New England, the way that Mac Jones has looked, basically the Patriots look like ass? All the reports also say that Miami looks like a brand new team and that everything's bliss. Is there too much of a sell job on Miami? Is there too much negativity on the Patriots potentially? How do you see this game going?
I think ultimately Miami is going to come away with this. And the two keys, I think, for this one is Tua's got to get into some sort of momentum here. He's got to have a decent game. I want to see how he looks with Tyreek Hill and Pittsburgh. Patriots defense is still going to be pretty solid. They're getting up there a little bit in age. They've revamped it a little bit through the draft, but ultimately, I think my key to this is Miami's going to have to shut down that run game, because if you shut down that run game and make Mac Jones beat you, that is a great recipe for success and winning. And if you can contain Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, keep them from having big games and keeping the Patriots in it, eating up a lot of clock and force Mac Jones to throw the ball, I think ultimately Miami's going to come away with a victory here. And Tua's got his best weapons since his Alabama days. I mean, you got Tyreek Hill there, you've got Jalen Waddle there. Mike Gesicki's transitioning more into a blocking tight end role. It sounds like out of camp from Mike McDaniel's system, but Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, two viable backs in the backfield there for him as well. So I ultimately think Miami comes away with the victory here, and that's due in part to their defense being able to shut down the run game.
I gotta say that one of the pieces that you mentioned was Gesicki transferring into more of a blocking tight end role. I hate that.
Yeah,
I
I do as well.
he's, he's not his strength is being a receiving tight end. Last year he had some plays last year where he was playing out wide, not kind of Jimmy Graham type of role back when Graham was with New Orleans. Obviously not as successful as Jimmy Graham was at that time, but Mike Gesicki is not a blocking tight end, man. He's a receiving tight end, and I think that's the only thing with the Dolphins that offensively where I think that they may be missing the mark. And I don't know. I think that in due time McDaniels will figure out. No, McDaniels or Gesicki, he can't block. I don't want them to bring in that second tight end to be a blocker. I think Gesicki is a legit tight end that can play out wide. Hopefully, Mike McDaniels realizes that pretty quickly coming on.
Yeah. Well, and they franchise tagged him too. I mean, you can't be
He's
paying
making
somebody all that
he's
money
making almost 10 mil
to
this year. He's
block.
making like 8.8, I think, this year. So yeah, you can't have him be a blocking tight end.
Yes. My next game that I'm looking forward to is one that's in the later slate of games, and this is our first AFC West battle. Las Vegas traveling to the Chargers. These are two teams that are going to be fighting for the division. I want to see what both of these teams look like. Can Las Vegas's defense step up and limit the Chargers? Can Las Vegas's offense keep up with the Chargers? I want to see if everybody that was scared about Josh Jacobs this year that's put to rest, and he is their true running back, or if Zamir White starts eating at his carries. Maybe even Amir Abdullah coming up from the grave to take some of that passing work. And I want to see Carr and Devontae Adams reuniting their college careers and see if they can take off immediately, or if there's a little bit of a slow start for them as well.
Yeah, I think that the Chargers right now they're the darling of the AFC. Honestly, like they're the new thing. They're the hot thing. Young quarterback, young coach, good, very good receiving options, good skill positions, especially on defensively. Given you said who you mentioned in earlier, Bosa and your boy Khalil Mack on both ends. J.C. Jackson, who is maybe out for week 1, but also they just got good corners. Derwin James, just signed him to a new deal. I'm just scared, man. The Chargers seem to have a chart. They just got like a Chargers curse. And
Yeah.
that's what makes me think I just love for the first time ever, I think I can say that the Raiders have some stability,
Yeah.
even though they've got a new head coach. And that whole thing was flipped. That whole coaching staff was flipped. But they do have stability in Derek Carr and the Devontae Adams piece. Josh Jacobs is still there. Defensively, I mean, it's mostly the same guys. Yeah, they got rid of Alex Leatherwood, which was a dog shit pick on draft day. Everybody knew that was that Alex. Sorry, Alex, but should not have gone first round. Like, so it feels like the Raiders somehow feel stable here. Not our stable from the last episode, but they feel stable as a franchise, and getting Gruden out of there, a TV personality, getting Mike Mayock out of there, TV personality, everything just, this feels right to me for the for the Raiders. And the Chargers are just mad talented. So that's probably, I'm dead excited for that one. Let's each do one more. I'm gonna roll back a little bit and go into the or I'm gonna roll it back and go into that Indy Houston game. Now, this should not be competitive, but what I'm looking forward to is seeing Davis Mills' potential growth from year 1 to year 2. He came in, if he would have, now I've heard scouts say this from, various radio shows and whatnot, that if he would have been in this previous class, the class that just got drafted, he would have been the first pick. He would have been the first quarterback picked, no doubt, based on, again, scouts grades. So I'm looking to see if he can make this jump. Now, I'm not saying that Houston's going to win this game, but can they make it competitive? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Davis Mills, I guess, in general, going into year 2? And do you think that he can make this competitive against, week 1, Lovie Smith, your boy, as their new head coach? Can the Texans make this a legitimate game?
I don't know if they can. I think Indy's ultimately going to have too much firepower, but if I'm a Houston Texans fan, I'm excited about this team. You've got a lot of young pieces on the team that you can look forward to see if they're going to be able to compete and build around them for the future. Ultimately, I think Houston's going to end up with the top 4, top 5 pick this year in the draft, and might have a couple of them with Cleveland trading for Deshaun Watson too. So we'll see how Cleveland ends up. But this is Davis Mills. It's going to be his full season. No more Tyrod Taylor there, Tyrod, whatever his name is. He's not
Don't
there
call me
anymore. So
Tyrod.
this is the Davis Mills show, and it's his team, and it's a tryout for him to see if Houston does end up with some top picks next year. There's some good quarterbacks that are going to be coming out. So if he doesn't have a good season, they're going to end up retooling and bringing in a new quarterback to kickstart the franchise. But ultimately, Davis Mills was pretty solid last year. No one really had any expectations for him. He is lacking some of the weapons. I mean, you got Brandon Cooks there, who's a solid blanket for him, and Nico Collins. We'll see if he can take a step forward this year. I mean, it can't be much worse than last year. Brevin
No.
Jordan's a very athletic tight end out of, I believe, out of Miami, and
Good old
he's
Brevin.
in his second year. Brevin Jordan, yep. And I so we'll see. I mean, there's some young pieces in that offense that if they take a step forward with Davis Mills, Houston could be okay this year. They're not going to win a ton of games or make the playoffs, but they'll be respectable. And I just, in this one though, no, I mean, it's going to be the Colts, but I'm curious to see what Houston looks like as well.
Okay, let me throw you something about, or just right at you right quick. Houston 5.5 wins, over under. Snap. Let's go. Snap
Uh,
decision.
well, I'm trying to think. I don't have their schedule up in
Me
front of me
neither.
because okay.
Just gut feel. This
I'd
is
say
this is gut
six.
feel.
I'll give 6 wins to
All
them.
right, so you're taking the over.
So they'll
Okay,
take the
right on.
over on it, not by much, but that division, I think they could pull off a win against Jacksonville, one of the two matchups, maybe one against Tennessee, surprise them, maybe at home or something. But yeah, I'm not too hopeful on their season.
I'm down with that.
My last game is also one that's not going to be competitive, but I'm a sucker for when franchise players return home. And this is the Monday night game, Russ going back to Seattle. And I'm actually excited to see what kind of reception he gets from the crowd with him demanding trades the last 2 years. I want to see if ultimately it turns into cheers or if it's just straight boos the whole time. And I want to see what he looks like in this offense. He's got Jerry Jeudy, he's got Cortland Sutton, he's got
Judge.
KJ Hamler and Javonte Williams. And I want to see what this Denver offense looks like. And there's no better team to run some of those guys out against than Seattle. And you can beat up on the team. And ultimately, I think Russell Wilson's going to want to just unleash. And I think Hackett's going to let him unleash in this one against his old team and be like, hey, Pete, this is what you should have done for all these years and let me throw the ball. So I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why they put this one on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
The debut of Buck and Aikman on ESPN. I
Damn
guess
it, you ruined it for me, Joe. Maybe I'll take this one off of it. I'll just watch it on no sound.
But no, it's gonna be badass. It's gonna be a fun watch, and yeah, what I'm honestly most looking forward to is how that running back room is gonna be split up between Javonte Williams and the old Badger MG3 Melvin Gordon. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out. But we all know it's gonna be a blowout. But hey, can Russ live up to this $49 million per year contract that he's now making? I mean, we won't know week one, but we'll see. We'll find out by year's end.
I thought for sure you're going to say you're looking forward to that matchup, Gel, because your boy Drew Lock is starting his MVP run against Denver. So you say, but that will transition us into our Drew Locks of the week. This is a segment we did all throughout last season, and we are bringing it back because it is a ton of fun. I have a little bit of a switch up this year since just the two of us will be doing this segment. And if you're new to it, each week, Gel and I are going to pick a quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end. And these are for fantasy purposes. These are guys that we think are going to ball out. We're going to keep a running total weekly of our picks. And it's half point PPR. So it's just a running total. Once you use a player, you cannot use them again. So you want to use a little bit of a strategic element to this as well. And what we're going to do this year is we're going to alternate each week. And week one, I'll kick it off to you, Gel. I'll let you go ahead week one. So Gel will have first pick of who he wants. It will not be a snake draft style. I don't have to follow suit with that position. So if Gel were to go wide receiver, I don't have to pick a wide receiver. I can jump over to another position. So again, once you use a player, you can't use them again and can't use the same player as your opponent. Gel, I'm excited for a little bit of a redemption tour this year, but again,
You
I will
need it,
defer to
baby.
you. We'll defer to you. So, what position are you going with, and who are you Drew locking in?
I'm going to start off in the running back room, and I kind of feel like I need to go extremely early on grabbing Christian McCaffrey because he's been injured so damn much. I have to go CMC as my first my number one overall pick for week one. He's facing Cleveland. Like I said, I think that, Baker's going to be out for blood, given that he's facing Cleveland. I think that there's going to be I shouldn't say a ton, but there's going to be multiple opportunities, I think, for CMC to score against the Browns this week. And again, I gotta get him out of the way before he gets hurt, because that's been his issue. I never got to use him last year in our Drew Lock. So Drew Lock number 1, Christian McCaffrey.
All right, I am going to go with the tight end position and talk about a player that will be getting the ball thrown to by your MVP, and that's Lamar Jackson's favorite target, Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews going up against the New York Jets, and I really like this one. Lamar Jackson zoned in on Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews, a lot of experts are picking to be the number 1 tight end in fantasy football this year. So I think he gets off to a hot start. Got some few catches there, probably like 7 to 8 catches, maybe a couple tutties in there, and like Mark Andrews.
Tutties, bro, tutties. No, Mark Andrews is my number 1 guy in fantasy within the tight end position, and I would have taken him there as well. So if that position was available, so I'm good with that. I suppose I probably shouldn't draft my next tight end here. So I'm gonna I'm gonna shift over to the wide receiver room. I'm gonna get a little former Green Bay Packer going on, a little Devontae Adams versus the LA Chargers. JC Jackson, his status is iffy for week 1. So I'm gonna try to hopefully take advantage of that matchup deficiency or matchup efficiency, given that their number 1 corner may be out, and I'm gonna rock a little Devontae Adams. Him and Derek Carr seem to obviously have an incredible relationship, so I'm feeling it.
All right, I will take over the quarterback position then, since that is the one you haven't picked yet. And I'm going to take one that's probably not in the top 12 for most weeks, but I think somebody that can put up a nice performance this week, and that's Jameis Winston going to Atlanta. I'm going to go all in on the Saints off of the bat here, and I think Jameis is going to come out firing. Had a heck of a week 1 last year against Green Bay, and I think he'll continue his week 1 trend this year. Atlanta is a team that shouldn't be doing a whole lot. I think Saints will run up the score there, and a game that Jameis Winston will have quite a few touchdown passes, hopefully some to my rookie of the year candidate and Chris Olave. But yeah, I like Jameis this week.
Definitely like that pick, especially given how successful he was week 1 against Green Bay last year. So love that pick, but I'm going to have to switch over to more traditional rushing quarterback, and my MVP pick from our episode before, Lamar Jackson, facing the Jets. The Jets are a mess. Like they have done a great job this offseason, and especially during this draft, in acquiring some rookies, some very, very solid young players. Those rookies, though, won't be making a major difference in week 1. So Lamar Jackson, Jets, feels like that's going to just be a win.
All right, I will move over to the wide receiver room for my second to last pick, and I'm going to go with a wide receiver who's got a new quarterback throwing him the ball, and that is Mr. Pity City, Michael Pittman Jr. facing the Houston Texans. I think he and Matt Ryan are going to get off to a hot start. It's a nice matchup against Houston, and Colts should be moving the ball fairly well in that one, and I like Michael Pittman Jr.
One of the best nicknames that's out on the board, so I'll gotta love it. But no, like you said, playing the Texans, I like it. And my final pick, missing a tight end here, so I'm gonna go with he was my oxen in the stable episode, and I'm gonna go with Mr. Pat Freiermuth, the Yinzer himself. So I think he's got a nice matchup against Cincinnati, since he did add on some additional linebacker help. They did re-sign their safeties, but I think that bringing in those linebackers, that they may be more useful later on in the season. I think I've got a nice matchup here with Freiermuth with this being that linebacker matchup week 1 with Cincinnati. So
Are
I'm
you
going Mr. Patty
that
F.
that confident with kissing titties getting him the rock?
I'm going with it.
We
That's
did
it.
get I do need to mention we're recording on Tuesday. This is out on Thursday, but there was an update to the Pittsburgh Steelers depth chart today, and Kenny Pickett is number 2. So thank God Mason Rudolph got moved down to 3.
I can't. I was so scared that it was gonna be Mason at 2 and that Pickett would just end up on like the practice squad or something.
Yes. All right. My last pick is going to be the running back position. And I've got two juicy matchups that I like here. I'm trying to figure out which one I want to
I
use
know who I would
first.
pick,
Hmm.
but this is your team.
Yeah. I'm I'm gonna lock in the running back that is
Gonna
in
stack.
the no, it's in the matchup that you are not looking forward to this week. And I'm going to lock in Derrick Henry going up against that atrocious New York Giants defense. And I just think that Tennessee is going to have a very lopsided win this week. And it's going to be in part because they're just giving the rock to Derrick Henry. I think he's going to be the focal point of that offense. Again, we talked about Tannehill's struggles in that playoff game. I think they're going to carry over and they're going to be wanting to run the ball quite a bit. Derrick Henry's at home against the Giants, and that's a nice matchup for him. So I'm gonna roll with Derrick Henry.
Let me know how that game goes. I will not be tuning in.
I will not as well, other than looking up that score. The other running back, I guess, that I was between there, it was Javonte Williams. I think he's going to absolutely ball out in Seattle. But again, I'm maybe waiting to use him till a little bit later on in the season once I know after this week 1 what that split
I,
looks
I
like
I
between
think
him
for
and
Javante,
MG3.
that's smart. That I'm with you on a wait and see approach. I think that especially this week, given that it's Russ at Seattle,
It's the rush
he's
show.
gonna really try to like, shove his fist into the place where nobody really wants to look. So I think you're smart in moving Javante Williams, using him later in the week or later in the season.
All right, so that will wrap up our weekly preview here for NCAA and NFL. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Joe can be found at Das Gel. I can be found at Das JPEG. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. Type in Dead Arm Sports into that search bar. Make sure you click the bell so that way you know when our episodes drop
Ding.
live. Got the chat monitored to the side. You can ask us any questions there during our live shows. Otherwise, once we record, if it's not live or if it's live, the video will be up there the next day for you to view. You can check out Gel's Rock and Fire in the background. Sometimes you even get a sunny appearance, so it's worth checking
Shawty's
out
fire
there.
burning on the dance floor. Whoa.
Also on TikTok as well. So make sure you go to TikTok. We're at Dead Arm Sports there. Going to be pumping out content as well. And for listening purposes, Joe, where else can they find us?
Find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Pods. Again, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just search Dead Arm Sports when you get to YouTube. Our channel should be the first thing that pops up at the top of your page. Subscribe, hit that alert button.
Ding.
Nice. It was so sad. That was so sad. And you'll find all of our glorious videos there. Again, TikTok page, just search at Dead Arm Sports. That's the username. You'll find all of our clips there. And just some short again 40-second maybe hot clips that we found out of the show and tried to expand that way. So trying to make it user friendly for all listeners, but yeah, but all in all, make sure you find us on the podcast channels: Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Google. 5 stars.
Right. Again, that will do it for this week. Appreciate everybody out there listening. If you could tell somebody you know, that would be wonderful. Hope you enjoy the football filled weekend. Hopefully, your fantasy teams get a W. Unless you're playing me, then I hope you lose. Otherwise, I hope everybody else wins. And remember, it's all about having fun, folks. Joe, close it out.
Haven't been able to rock this in a while, but are you ready for some football? A Monday night party. We're gonna rock.